You guys are also very into kind of the financial independent community,
Yep.
everything. We had mentioned, sort of Dave Ramsey, and you mentioned Set for Life, and we had talked before the show about how much value that Dave Ramsey's program brings to a lot of people, but there's also a little bit, left. Maybe missing to the piece of the puzzle that some other things and maybe house hacking. So talk about you talked about six figures in student loans. Talk about your journey throughout this, and kind of fitting the pieces together between a Dave Ramsey approach, and a house hacking approach and a Set for Life approach, and kind of marrying them all together.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great question. So like for us, the goal is definitely to have a nice home, like eventually one day not have people living upstairs from us and all that kind of stuff. But when we started down this journey, the idea of going right into that life, that we couldn't wrap our heads around it. And so priority one was really just how can we get out from debt? Because we felt like at the very least, if we wanted to have that type of life, student loans aren't going to help us necessarily get there. And so yeah, we discovered Dave Ramsey and we read the Total Money Makeover, and we started going down the seven baby steps. And
All
um,
those steps.
yes, and I'll tell you, I mean, it was. I'm so grateful that we discovered his method, or because it really got us talking about money. I mean, we had been together for almost 4 or 5 years before we found Total Money Makeover. I don't know if we ever really talked about money.
And that's a big thing because I think we live in a society where we talk a lot about our purchases, but we don't talk about how we make those purchases or the debt we go into or the saving strategies that we use. So I
Right.
think
Or what do you do? Or like, what do you do? I do this and I do that. And it's like, well, that's great. And if you make all that money, but if you don't know how to save it or invest in it, you're just,
Yeah.
just gonna blow it. And that's
Yeah.
how I kind of was. I'm like, I want to get my doctorate, make six figures plus a year.
right.
And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna go into six figures, go trying to get that doctorate.
Right.
Well, that's exactly it,
Crazy.
right? So like it seems very taboo to talk about money
Uh-huh.
and we're heading into marriage, but we were kind of just, fumbling along here, paying our bills, doing this during doing that, but we
Yeah.
weren't living an intentional life. And I think
That's
with
my
Dave
favorite
Ramsey, he
word.
really taught us a lot of those fundamentals that we needed. But
Yeah.
right, like you said, it didn't fully click for us. It was a little all to one end. We're like, wait, we just have to fully pay down our debt and really sacrifice our quality of life for the next, 3, 4 years. People do it and they rock at it and they're doing awesome things. It didn't fit for us,
Right.
you know.
For us, it was a little bit too one dimensional. Like when we were talking about when we initially started looking at rental properties, I was looking way like the worst possible properties, and it may have made sense. I don't know if we would have survived that. And so the same holds true kind of for Dave Ramsey. If we strictly stuck to that, yeah, I mean, it put a lot of strain on us, especially kind of the year going into, our marriage. And so then quickly the dialogue became, okay, this is kind of okay, but we need something. We still need to have some joy in our life. Maybe there has to be a better way. And so I went to Google and started reading forums and everything like that. And that's actually when I came across the book Set for Life. And that book became, when talking about language and stuff like that, that book kind of became our blueprint because it had that debt payoff component, which we definitely resonated with. But he also talks about owning assets. So that way, when you get across that finish line of, yay, we paid off that debt, you also have things that are producing extra income for you and giving you more time versus one or the other. And so for us, we're big into the happy medium, find that Goldilocks type of scenario. And that's where Set for Life really kind of gave us that happy medium.
For sure. And I think we resonate a lot with that too, because, there are elements to where, we are, and mostly me being very frugal in areas, but there are also a lot of things that bring us joy that we don't really, of course we're mindful of, but when it comes to spending money, we attempt to spend money on the things that bring us joy.
Yeah.
And giving away and helping people and helping people in the community and being involved in the things that we're involved with, and traveling and things like that. Like those things bring us joy. And so when it comes to spending money on those things, we don't necessarily see it as spending money. Where when you come from a world like Dave Ramsey and things like that, not that his intention is to come off this way, but there's a lot of stress in all of those things, and spending money is all, each dollar you spend is spent the same way, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think there are several ways to spend a dollar, and some are beneficial, some are not, and you have to be mindful. Allie, you talked a little bit about the psychology of kind of transactions, psychology of money, and understanding, why you're buying things is probably more important than how much you spent on it, maybe. But we definitely resonate with that sort of mindset that every dollar is not spent the same way. You can buying joy is maybe the ultimate thing you can do with your money, and that's why house hacking to us is so important, because what you do with that additional income or savings, however you want to look at it, is much less important as how well your relationships are doing, and how well you are, as far as like bringing joy to yourself and your community and the people around you. And so I think that aspect was, once we started to talk in that way, I think it was much easier for the buy-in to be with real estate and house hacking and all of that.
Yeah, I didn't even have a credit card until the year after I graduated from college, because I was just so terrified of, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in debt to anybody. And my friends would ask me to go out, and if I didn't have the cash to do it, I would buy all my groceries in college straight cash.
There you go.
Not even put it on a card, anything, because I was terrified. Like, if I'm gonna have any of this debt, I just don't want to deal with it. And now we can use some of the points that we put on that credit card and use it to travel and be intentional about it.